I'm going to be speaking about the do's and don'ts of partnering with e-commerce platforms. There we go. Got the clicker as well. So first question for you: who's actually partnering with one of the e-commerce platforms like Magento, BigCommerce, Shopify? All of you? Perfect. So hopefully you're going to learn a little bit. Perhaps you're going to challenge my assumptions as well. And interestingly enough, we're going to have BigCommerce speak right after. So it's going to be the mirror image, basically them speaking to you about how you can get into their good graces. And this is essentially the other side of it. So let's get started. I don't know if this clicker works actually. There we go. Good. Maybe a couple of introduction words on the company in case you haven't heard of Nosto before. So we're actually a personalization platform which plugs into any e-commerce store. We start tracking behavioral data points like your page views, your transactions, your geolocation, and then we'll personalize the entire customer experience. So I'm sure you've seen personalized product recommendations on Amazon. That's basically what we do, but we also make that available throughout other channels, so anything from Facebook, Instagram, and so on. And obviously we partner very closely with the e-com platforms. A little bit of history on the company. So it's actually a Finnish-founded company, interestingly enough. So it's a tech hub, Nokia and all of those companies, and Supercell. So founded in Helsinki by an e-commerce retailer who's looking for a personalization solution. Couldn't really find anything that was within reason on the budget side and easy to implement. And fast forward to today, we have about 100 employees, a good 50-50 split between engineers and kind of sales operations. I'm based in the New York office, but we also have LA office, and then obviously a heavy footprint in Europe as well. And currently we're working on kind of a dynamic customer segmentation tool. So we're one of those B2B, 2C companies, so we do implement on a Magento or a BigCommerce, but then you will also see our tool essentially as a customer-facing tool as well. So we'll run on sites like Helly Hansen, Everlast, Flight Club, some of those guys, and again, very closely aligned with the platforms, and hopefully I can share some thoughts on how we got into their good graces. You know all about personalization, so it's a big buzzword. So whether you look at Netflix, I'm sure you've seen those continue watching recommendations. That's essentially also what we do, or a browsing history related recommendation. So it's becoming almost like a hygiene factor nowadays. You need to have some kind of personalization angle. Same with Spotify. I'm sure some of you know the weekly Discover playlist. That's essentially personalization as well. And of course Amazon and Google as well. So again, it's kind of becoming an expected tool. This is for you guys who don't know the other personalization channels, so on-site products. We also do personalized emails, pop-ups, Facebook and Instagram. And it all comes down into the e-com intelligence engine. And I'm going to get to the topic, but for those of you who are interested in learning how it's generated, so we'll actually start looking at things like your geolocation, and we'll look at your traffic source, and then we'll start personalizing the experience once we've seen some clicks as an example. We'll then also multi-goal optimize, so we'll look at things like revenue, inventory, and so on as well. And then we work with a bunch of other technologies, obviously, as well. So maybe, how did we get into the good graces of a BigCommerce or a Magento or a Shopify Plus? So maybe the first point I would like to highlight is that those platforms, at least from our work with them, they make bigger bets than us, right? So they do fairly generic bets on the future. So as opposed to just looking at personalization, which would be our focus, they're looking at things like AI leadership, or how can we excel at user experience. So those bets, they usually transcend maybe one technology, or they transcend one channel. They're fairly broad bets. So one of our initial goals was really to understand what are those bets that Magento and so on are doing. And just looking at the last, I would say 4 or 5 years I've been with Nosto. I've seen the omni-channel bets come alive. I've seen the social selling bets, one data set, and currently it's kind of the AI thing. So the AI moniker. So I think, yeah, you need to be good at that strategic ambiguity. How can you fit your technology into one of those big bets? And again, currently AI is the big one. So it's definitely, I would say, one of the things that you need to be good at. Yeah, then for us, again, we've also treated the platforms as an ecosystem. At least initially, we had a couple of years ago, it's quite difficult to penetrate a Magento or a Ecommerce or Shopify Plus. So what instead we did, we started looking at the ecosystem, and we started partnering with the top 3 players in each space. So as an example, every e-commerce business needs search, or any e-com business needs a payment provider, or any e-com business needs a email service provider. So we started partnering with those. We built fairly, I would say, shallow integrations with them, usually one-click integration, nothing too crazy, but it did allow us to kind of build a web around the e-commerce platform. We did the same with the system integrators. So we picked usually the 3 top SIs on each side of the coast, started working with them. So we started building that mesh around the platform, and that seemed to work pretty well. Anyone here use Build With, Data Nice? Anyone? Yeah. So obviously that's a tool that I'm in every day almost. And if you can identify those technologies, it's just worth your weight in gold. So definitely a big win. Then I think one observation that I currently see in the market, and perhaps neither confirm or deny, is that it's not enough to be just listed in the App Store anymore. So what I see happening now is that you need to have a dedicated product for every platform that you work with, which is a little bit difficult. Obviously, our task as managers is to kind of scale our software and just make it available through any platform. But of course, the e-com platform sees it the exact other way around. So they want to have a competitive advantage against their competitors. So they're asking us to come up with exclusive products specifically for their platform. So that's kind of a shift in the market that we've seen. But if you can cater to that, I think that's a big win. Perfect. And again, some of them are a little bit obvious, but I'll just repeat them anyways. So for us, one of the things, in technology, there's so much tech that just starts scaling very quickly and then kind of fizzles out. So we've kind of made these 2 to 3 year bets and commitments to those platforms. So we'll do anything for them without almost looking at the ROI. And then usually after 2 or 3 years, it starts paying off. We've done that successfully. And I guess that's kind of their validation towards us that we're still standing after 2 or 3 years without having to raise more and more money. So if you get into the game, yeah, again, 2 to 3 year commitment to win them over. Yeah, then I think if you make the decision which platform to work with, and especially if you do a specific partnership with a rev share component, at least from my experience, no platform is going to guarantee you additional sales or additional license sales. That's basically a strategic decision you need to make. So what we've done instead, we've kind of mapped out specific exercises that we want to do with each platform. So that's obviously being in their marketplace or their app listing place. We want to have specific locations in the app store, so we want to get a lot of exposure. We want to be hard-coded for certain search terms. And then that extends to all channels. So we want to do specific webinars. We want to see a certain amount of direct introductions. So if you can do that, then you can kind of calculate your own ROI without that the platform has to commit to any revenue increases. Then one thing to note is always to see that the app stores, they're actually usually business units within an e-commerce platform, so they have their own revenue targets. So if you can show, let's say, some form of growth, and you can see, in the future it's going to take off hockey stick style, they almost have no choice but to work with you because they get the rev share component. So for us, just showing this incredible growth, that gets you obviously, top of mind for sure. Yeah, and then if you choose a partnership with an e-commerce platform, and you get into one of those, let's call them premier partnerships as well. At least for us, it allowed us to sell to bigger clients. So the MRR went up by 20-30% just by having that little badge. That's definitely something you should take into consideration when you build your business case for partnering up with those e-com platforms. Yeah, then marketing ground level operations. I think from our perspective, we want to make it as easy as possible to work with us. So we'll, in many cases, do most of the heavy lifting on the campaigns that we run, whether it's, reflections on e-commerce trends. So we'll do most of the heavy lifting, and then the e-commerce platform needs to just put their little stamp on, and obviously, then we expect them to run some paid advertising on it as well. But we'll take care of most of the heavy lifting as well. An additional point where we've had great success is kind of offering best of breed marketing with the platform. So just to go back here, just to make it a little bit more tangible. Let's say we're working with a Magento or BigCommerce. They get absolutely pounded with requests for some co-branded marketing. So instead of approaching them on our own, we'll actually take 3-4 of our partners and then approach them together. We'll do a content piece, or we'll do a meetup. That makes it much easier for them to work with us as well. So that's worked out pretty nicely. As well. Great. Then I think understanding their org structure. So we have relationships, obviously with their sales, with their customer success, C-level as well, whenever we can get it. So we've kind of done that mapping exercise. And then we'll manage those relationships on each and every level. And then we do internal platform marketing. So that's marketing that is solely aimed at that platform. So we'll do a newsletter that's purely going to employees of Magento as an example. We'll do the same with our top partners, Facebook as well. So we have an internal newsletter just for Facebook and our connections at Facebook. We'll do lunch and learns. We'll send them goodies to stay top of mind as well. So that seems to resonate pretty nicely. Cool. And then one thing, if you can get into good graces of customer success, I know there's a lot of buzz around customer success, kind of the next sales channel. That's something that we've had great success with as well, especially introductions. Introducing Nosto as a technology is kind of an upsell into the platform that works really nicely. And then just get the badge and leverage as much as you can. I think those are probably kind of my top 10 advices around kind of strategy and marketing. I'd love to hear kind of your feedback if you've seen it the same way, or if you have other additional tips on how to win the platform. So open up the floor to questions.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what Kevin says next about, now that you've revealed all your secrets of how you woo him.
Yeah, hopefully some of it resonates at least. We'll see.
Any questions?
How did you initially select the 2 or 3 that you wanted to focus your time and attention on in each of those different functional categories? Or did it happen more organically through Kismet, or who said yes over time?
Also, I mean, again, we started with just looking at platforms like Datanyze and BuildWith, just to look at the install base. Then we qualified kind of the actual merchants, how much revenue are they making? Are these kind of the modern new brands that we feel like we want to work with? And then usually you have 2 or 3 platforms come up. So for us, Magento, Shopify Plus, BigCommerce, and then Salesforce Commerce Cloud is probably the ones that I would like to work with, just the mid to enterprise level market.
Thanks.
How closely do you align targeting the SI communities within each of the platforms? So do you do that jointly, or do you kind of run that in parallel?
Yes, for us, I would say we do that jointly as well. So we'll do case studies with them. We'll partner with them. For us, it's obviously a big sales channel. And currently, we do around 60-70% of our revenue through the SIs. So it's actually a fairly important channel for us. And again, we're all about this best of breed, and then that means also working with other technologies and then SIs especially as well. Any additional questions?
I'll ask a question. You threw out that idea of making product-specific capabilities for each platform. Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah. So for example, with I'll give you an example of Magento. They have like a BI tool, which just does business intelligence, and they want to see specific metrics on the performance of personalization. So that's a pretty cool use case where we can use their BI suite and track the performance even better of what personalization is kind of bringing to the table as in terms of ROI. Same goes for pretty much all platforms. They have some kind of CMS component where you can just do a page builder. That's also a pretty natural integration where they can just move recommendations around, or they can move content around, which is generated by Nosto, as an example. Does that make sense?
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you so much, An.